Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Ambulance. This movie is directed by Michael Bay, who's directed such films such as Bad Boys, The Rock, and the Transformers movies. This movie stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Isa Gonzalez. Now the plot of this movie is Yahya Abdul-Mateen plays a man named Will, who needs to raise money for a surgery for his family. So he goes to his brother Danny, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and asks for help. Well, his brother can't give him the money up front, however, he can make him earn it. So they soon find themselves amidst a bank robbery inside a stolen ambulance on a run from the law. So if you're going to go into this movie expecting to be about two actors in a stolen ambulance and the run from the law, kind of like Taking a Pelham 123 or Speed, yeah, that's part of the movie. But there's a lot more to it. And there's a lot more cast members and plot and intrigue and action and a bunch of unnecessary stuff as well. So, going into this, I was excited because I was like, you know what? Maybe Michael Bay has learned his lesson from Pain and Gain. Maybe this is going to be a decent Michael Bay film. I mean, there's Jake Gyllenhaal, who's always good, and there's Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who's been good in the Watchmen TV show, Aquaman, and a Candyman as well. So I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot. Well, what we got was a 2-hour and 30-minute movie that was practically Transformers, just with cop cars and action. And there wasn't a whole lot to it. There was so much substance in this movie that Michael Bay had a hard time focusing on where exactly he wanted his story to be. For example, here's how the movie starts out. So Will, he's a husband. He's a veteran. And so we feel for his character. And he goes to see his brother, who he's grown up with. They show flashbacks of when they were kids. And that's something the movie does best, which I'll get to later, is to show the brotherhood between them. So he goes to visit his brother Danny. His brother Danny, works at, I guess, a car dealership or something. That's not really exactly what he does, but he's really wealthy. And so his brother's like, hey, you want some coffee? I bought a new coffee machine. His brother's like, hey, man, I need some money for this reason. I need your help. And his brother's like, well, I'm sorry, man. I don't have the money. However, I'm on my way to a bank robbery. If you want to come with me, then you can get a whole bunch more money that way. Like, what? Oh, what? Okay, grab a coffee. Let's get in the car. Let's go rob this bank, and then we'll talk. No time. And then there's a scene where they're talking, and Michael Bay likes to do this thing where, the camera rotates around things to almost make it feel like it's important, but it's not. You have Jake Gyllenhaal as this guy that's had way too many Monster Energy drinks, who's very excited, who talks very fast, and there's no time to digest what's going on or what he's saying because he gets so excited. It's a little ridiculous. And then they do the bank robbery. The bank robbery tries to be heat so bad. And you've got 3 other armed robbers that you really don't care about. You have one guy that is first of many characters, by the way, that you're like, why is this character in this movie? He's so out of place and does nothing. So then they rob the bank. So then they end up in an ambulance with an EMT inside. Okay, you're thinking fine. They have a hostage? No! An EMT and a wounded cop. So now the brothers must steal this ambulance. They're on the run with an EMT in the back of the ambulance, and they need to try to stay, safe so the EMT can keep this cop alive. Yep. And if that sounds like a lot, just wait until you hear about all the other characters and antics this movie has for us. Now, I'm not even going to bother explaining to you how they're able to be in this ambulance going at least 60 miles an hour with an EMT and a wounded cop inside, and the cops create all these roadblocks, all these traps, all these things to keep them going down a road. The cops had so many opportunities to stop them, and there's one moment where the chase is called off because one of the cops' dogs is inside one of the cars. Alright, so the 2 brothers are in this ambulance. You got Jake Gyllenhaal is excited. He's like, oh, we're gonna get through this, brother. We're gonna get through this, brother. And Will's like the level-headed one. He's the one that's like, all right, Danny, what's our next step? What are we going to do next? And Danny doesn't really have a plan. He just thinks short term, not long term. He needs to get to a certain location because then there's like a drug cartel that's involved. And then it's as if Michael Bay decides that his simple plot of two brothers in an ambulance is not enough. He's got to introduce an EMT. He's got to introduce a cop that's on his deathbed. And then he's got to introduce other characters coming in. You have this guy, I forget his first name, Garrett Delahunt, who's like the guy, it's like the Tommy Lee Jones type character where he's like, all right, we're going to create a task force. We're going to, create a radius, block this off, do this, do that. The one calling the shots. But then you have another group of characters that are also working with the cops. Like, the best way I can describe this is if you've seen the Transformers movies, you've got the first Transformers film. You've got Sam Witwicky, Shia LaBeouf. And then you have his parents. Okay. Additional side characters, I get it. It establishes who he is, where he's from. And then you have Megan Fox. Okay, fine, I can buy that. You have the female. You have the pairing of the two. But then you have the soldiers and the CIA agents and the Autobots. And you have all of these other characters crammed in this movie. And that's what Michael Bay likes to do best, is instead of having just central characters, he's got to have all these side pieces, all these subplots. And there's a subplot amongst the cops where, I don't remember his name, but he's the creepy guy from Wedding Crashers. He comes in as like this specialist who knows Danny, knows his father, who's also a criminal. And it's a mess. It's 2.5 hours of just cars crashing, Michael Bay using a drone to go up to scale a building and then for some reason stop and then turn back around and then go back down the building just to seem like it's fancy camera work. The characters are very shallow. You've got Isa Gonzalez, who's like this EMT who I guess is the main character of the film because it opens and ends with her. And she's like this no nonsense, all right, we're going to save this life, we're going to do this, like by the book. And yet she's like taken down a peg in this movie. Yahya Abdul-Mateen was a good actor, but the only thing his character is given is he's Danny's brother. He's the brother. He's the one driving the ambulance. He's the vet. He's the one with the family. He's got everything to lose. And that's really it. There's really no connection. You're really not feeling for this character because there hasn't been enough time or real story to invest in him. Danny, Jake Gyllenhaal's a good actor, but here he's like this guy that's supposed to be this really smart, brilliant criminal who had a father who was also a criminal. Yet he just talks really fast, gets excited, bumbles over stuff, and doesn't seem very bright. So, because Michael Bay also tries to cram in his comedy that's just not funny at all, he tries to introduce these other subplots, like, I would say trust me on this, but you probably already believe it. There's a scene where they're doing surgery on somebody with other surgeons via Skype in a laptop. And it's just all this nonsense comedy, these subplots, this movie that's way too long, and by the end of it, you don't really care about the characters because, one, there's so many of them going on, but also, you just know them as criminals. Criminals that are brothers. And that's the best thing this movie does. It's established that they are brothers. They grew up together. It shows them as kids. It shows them now. The way they talk, their banter, the way they get along, that was believable, and that's what I enjoyed. But other than that, this movie is just a wannabe Heat, a wannabe Speed, and it's like Transformers just with cop cars and destruction. And it's just your typical Michael Bay movie. And it just wasn't entertaining. A lot happened, but you really didn't care. So because of that, I'm going to give Ambulance a C-. Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, but this isn't even his best work. I wouldn't say this movie is as bad as Pain and Gain, but it's near the bottom of Michael Bay's filmography. So until next time, see ya.